Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends, partners, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today as we are having this virtual Rwanda Awaits event. My name is Emmanuel Ruhumaliza, and I am honored to be your tour guide today as we journey through this event. And I will be learning about Arsenal and Rwanda's unique partnership, the country sector, as well as its many conservation successes, and of course, the success story as one of the best tourist destinations in the world. As you can see from the amazing background behind me, we are at the Emirates Stadium, and I'm joined by the commercial director at Arsenal, Peter Silverstone. Peter, muraho.
Muraho neza.
There you go. And Peter, if you don't mind, for the benefit of our guests, we can carry the rest of the event on in English. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine for today. That's fine, thank you.
Fantastic. So today we'll be hearing from the CEO of the Rwanda Development Board, Clare Akamanzi, and the commercial director at Arsenal, Peter Silverstone. And we're also joined by what many of you probably know him as, Mr. Arsenal, the legend that is Tony Adams, who will be sharing his experience of Rwanda before the pandemic in a conversation with the Chief Park Warden of the Volcanoes National Park, Prosper Uwingeli. If you've ever wondered what it's like to go on a safari or on a trek to experience the wildlife and capture iconic wildlife photographs, then you're in for a treat, as we will also be taken on a unique behind-the-scenes in a day in the life of a world-class wildlife photographer by world-renowned photographer David Yarrow. And we'll get to have an insight into his workflow, his process, and have a very special unveiling as well this afternoon here at Emirates Stadium. This will be followed by a special message, a note of thanks, by the High Commissioner for the Republic of Rwanda, Her Excellency Yamina Karitanyi. But of course, this will not be a Visit Rwanda event if one of our guests was in a chance to win a special prize to go visit Rwanda. So somebody will be walking away with a 2-night stay for 2 people at the world-class Singita Kwitonda Lodge, which is at the foothills of Volcanoes National Park, courtesy of the Singita Group.
Just to be clear, do I have the opportunity to win this? I was at Singita. It's the most incredible place.
I would love to win that as well, but unfortunately, this is just for our guests, so this is already 2 people out of the competition, so everybody has a chance. Stay tuned for that. A bit of housekeeping. At the end of each segment, we will have the opportunity to have a Q&A, a questions and answers segment. So to help the flow of the sessions, please do use the chat box to submit your questions to our speakers. Now, some of you may know that Rwanda was amongst the first countries in the world to reopen following the pandemic. And in June, we reopened in a phased stage for tourism, for domestic tourism. And it was in August the 1st specifically last year, 2020, that Rwanda opened to the world for tourism with specific measures in place to ensure that everybody's visit is indeed safe and seamless. So to kick things off, here is a video on why and also how you are assured to have both a safe and seamless experience in Rwanda.
The safety and well-being of all visitors to Rwanda is our #1 priority. This is why we've introduced new measures to ensure that visiting Rwanda is both safe and seamless. From the moment you step off the plane, our team of health professionals are ready to welcome you and take your COVID-19 test upon arrival. After a short waiting period at designated hotels, tourists can enjoy the natural beauty, history, and culture of our country. As custodians of the majestic mountain gorillas, we take their safety very seriously. As a result, we have put additional measures to ensure their health, as well as those of the visitors that go to the national parks. Similar measures are in place in all the other touristic sites within the country as well as hotels, which is why Rwanda has received the World Travel and Tourism Council Safe Travels Global Safety and Hygiene Stamp. As our international airport opens on the 1st of August, we welcome you to visit Rwanda and experience our warm hospitality. Welcome to Rwanda, Murakaza neza.
So it is now my pleasure to welcome Claire and Peter. And just a reminder to our guests, as you listen, please do submit any questions you have in the Q&A chat box. Peter, Claire, the virtual floor is yours.
Claire, so fabulous to see you. How are you?
Hi, Peter. Very good to see you as well. Very good. I see you at the Emirates Stadium. I miss Visit Rwanda in the background, though.
It's there. It's here. I promise you. And I'm missing you sitting here, but really good to see you and really good to chat about our partnership.
Absolutely. Same here.
It's been an incredible time since we announced this landmark partnership and everything we've achieved. To think we'd now be here sitting virtually after what's been an incredible year for everyone, it's certainly a time to reflect.
Absolutely. It's been a year of reflection, adjustment, adaptability, agility for us in Rwanda as well.
Yeah. For us here, obviously, we're sitting here with Emmanuel at a stadium that has been, unfortunately, too empty for the last year. We haven't been able to welcome fans to our stadium, to engage with our fans. That's obviously impacted us from a commercial revenue perspective. And I feel it's the same for you as Rwanda. You haven't been able to engage with all the tourists that want to come and visit your country. But how have you been coping from a tourism perspective, and what's your plans for Rwanda awaiting people coming back?
Thank you, Peter. First of all, it's a pleasure to be joining everybody today to have this discussion. And yes, it's been over a year of dealing with the pandemic in Rwanda, and tourism in particular, which has been a key driver of economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction in Rwanda, was severely affected. But we had to deal with it head on as a country, because we realized once we understood what the pandemic was all about, that putting health first and dealing with the health issue the pandemic brings was a priority more than anything else that we had planned for the year. Even though the pandemic was sudden, nobody expected it, nobody planned for it, we had to quickly reorganize ourselves as a country to deal with it, because we knew that the future and the prospects for the plans that we had as a country depended on how quickly we could deal with the pandemic. And so we put in place various systems. First of all, governance structures. We had our scientific advisory committee sit every week to just understand what the pandemic was all about and what to do about it. And then we had the Prime Minister of Rwanda lead a COVID task force to just sit down and make plans and adjust. And we had the Cabinet of Rwanda sit every 2 weeks to put in place measures. And so we put measures like enforcing masks, wearing in the country. We put measures like washing, sensitizing our people to wash their hands. We put in place measures like testing. We really ramped up testing across the country to understand the status and how the disease was progressing. And so putting in place health systems very quickly and reorganizing ourselves to deal with that was very important. But particularly for tourism, as Emmanuel mentioned at the beginning, we opened tourism, domestic tourism in June 2020, and then we opened the airports in August. The key aspect for us has been to make sure that we're testing everyone who comes to the country as a tourist, and we are able to, isolate cases that were positive and deal with them. But then we're also very sure that everyone who goes to different destinations was negative and safe to travel. We also tested our staff in the national parks and within the hotels that were close to the national parks every 2 weeks, just to make sure that we were able to see the picture and to make sure that our visitors were safely traveling to Rwanda. So really for us, the priority has been deal with the health issue. And as we deal with the health issue, we reorganize tourism in as much as possible in a safe environment.
Yeah, and for our partnership, I mean, we had such success in the early stages, in the first years of driving incredible tourism revenue and an uptake of 22% increase in tourism from Europe and the UK to Rwanda. And we are committed to support and help as tourism increases again back to Rwanda, to driving forward that message that Rwanda is safe, Rwanda is open, and Rwanda is waiting. I'm obviously very privileged in my job, that I can call it my job, that I've been to Rwanda so many times over the years. I've enjoyed so many incredible, rich experiences in Kigali itself, visiting Singita, as Emmanuel just mentioned, Kwitetsina, the mountain gorilla trekking, which is our lifetime experiences. And of course, we at Arsenal are looking forward to continuing to drive that messaging to people to raise the awareness of the incredible tourism offering in Rwanda. How do you see the development over the next months from a tourism perspective, Claire?
Yeah. First of all, what we've seen is that vaccination program is very important for us as a country as we reopen tourism. Rwanda started its program to vaccinate the population over the last few weeks. And we need to vaccinate 7 million Rwandans, over 7 million Rwandans, in order to reach the herd immunity that is recommended by the World Health Organization. And so far, we vaccinated 350,000 people who are it's about 5% of the people that we need to vaccinate. So we believe that as the weeks and months and vaccines become even more available, we will be able to vaccinate more people and create a safe environment for tourism increasing over the next few months. So we think that we should see positive trends and growth in line with the vaccination and the other safety guidelines that we've put in place. And we look forward to all the funds that have been following our partnership with Arsenal. Many of them have given us feedback that they are looking forward to when they can travel again. And I really hope that's very soon.
Yeah, similarly, we are on a similar journey of vaccination, which ultimately is going to open the UK and this stadium here to allow our fans back. Towards the end of this season, we'll have a large number of fans back, and I really look forward to opening up in the summer to welcome back all our fans, including you, Claire, and all our friends from Rwanda, to come to the stadium, because then we can also be talking about, and I know you'll be looking forward to this, the trips of our players, our former players, coming to Rwanda. I know of the impact when David came a couple of years ago. Certainly was impactful for me. I know it was impactful for you and for everyone in Rwanda, and for David himself to come and create that buzz and that excitement around visiting Rwanda. And I'm sure you've already got ideas, and we've got ideas as to which player will come next to experience the incredible time that David and his family and his mother had when they were there last time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we very much look forward to that as well. And when we see the brand Visit Rwanda and the perception that it has created, not just in Rwanda, but globally, I think it's really, really a very successful partnership that we've seen. When you go to Rwanda today and you walk around or drive around, you see businesses that have been inspired by Visit Rwanda. Some of them call themselves Visit Rwanda businesses, cafe or whatever. Recently, I saw a boat in one of the lakes in Rwanda calling itself Visit Rwanda. And I think that brand capital that has been inspired by the partnership that we have with Arsenal has really been very clearly appreciated, not just inside Rwanda, but outside Rwanda. A lot of people can recognize this partnership. And in fact, as you know, we've done surveys to see likelihood of people to choose Rwanda as a destination for tourism. And in 2019, 35% of people that we surveyed did confirm that they could actually visit Rwanda because of the partnership that they appreciate. And that number grew to 41% in 2020, despite the pandemic. And so I believe that once everything is in place, once travel can resume, a lot of people are very likely to really take on this opportunity to visit and enjoy all that Rwanda has to offer.
Yeah, and our fans have engaged with our partnership with Rwanda since its inception. Not just the visits of David, not just the content around Kwitetsina, around the Guerrilla naming. If you think of the Amasunzu barbershop content that we created, that's the culture of Rwanda. 7 million people watching this, engaging with it. It's the culture as well as the tourism has captivated our fans, and we're looking forward to creating more and doing more as everything reopens.
Yes, and as you know, tourism for Rwanda is a top priority economically, and of course it was interrupted by the pandemic. But tourism is very important for Rwanda's economic growth aspirations, for job creation plans that we have as a country. But for people to visit and for the numbers to increase of visitors, people need to know Rwanda. People need to be aware about what there is in Rwanda. And we find that this partnership with Arsenal creating a lot of opportunity for Rwanda to be known and for the very, very, very beautiful scenes that we have in the country, whether it's the national parks or the very beautiful scenes that are around the lakes, the twin lakes, the culture, among others. And so just the ability to position and to create this awareness across the globe through this partnership with Arsenal is something that we believe has a lot of value and continue to have a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely, and we continue to support and believe in that as well, and look forward to working further with you and the team.
Absolutely, same here.
Awesome.
So we have also new plans for 2021 in the tourism and conservation plans. We're hoping that we can share some of these plans, whether it's expansion of the national parks that we have, hosting, other leagues like the Basketball Africa League with NBA in the country in May this year. And so there's a lot that we plan for this year as we deal with the pandemic as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Claire and Peter, for all these insights. We have a few questions already in, so if you allow me, I'll go right into them. And perhaps I'll start with one touching on your last point, Claire. This is a question on, I noticed that the inaugural Basketball Africa League tournament will be held in Rwanda in May. Is Rwanda specifically targeting sports tourism now?
Yes, absolutely. Sports tourism is an area that we have planned for expansion of our tourist activities and events coming to Rwanda. And we've invested in infrastructure that will make sports tourism possible. For the Basketball League, one of the reasons that the NBA chose Rwanda to host it is because we have the facilities. We have a Kigali arena that was built to world-class standards to host events such as this. And we have the Africa League coming here. We've also just invested with a Gary player that you know in golf to invest in a modern golf course area that will be hosting golf tournaments soon as well. And of course, we have with the British partnership a cricket stadium that we built. So we are investing in infrastructure to make this possible, because sports tourism is one big element of growth that we see in our overall tourism strategy.
I visited the Kigali arena. It's incredible what you've done there, an incredible facility. And I can imagine it would be very successful in hosting lots of events.
Yes.
Thank you for those insights again. And just to follow up on that, actually, and those updates, another question was asking, what's the best way to continue to support the work that you're doing to expand the Volcanoes National Park and increase the habitat of mountain gorillas?
Yes, so because of the tremendous investment that the government of Rwanda, together with its partners, put in place for mountain gorillas that were becoming extinct, what we saw instead was a growth of the population of gorillas because they were being looked after well. What that means is that as the families are growing, the space is becoming smaller for them. And so one of our biggest conservation programs is to expand the national park with about over 3,000 hectares so that we can have more room for the gorillas to grow as they're growing, but also to live comfortably. And so we are partnering with friends, with conservationists that want to be part of this story to be able to make this a reality, whether it's through resources or whether it's through conservation ideas or whether it's through just being part of the plans to expand the national park. This is something that we are partnering with whoever wants to be part of in any way that they'd like to be part of, but it is our flagship conservation program.
Excellent. I think we have one more question. Specifically on Rwanda. So Rwanda was recently ranked 6th in the world for its effectiveness in responding to the pandemic, and you've shared some of these measures and what the response has been. So the question is, have there been trade-offs for tourism and the economy, and how are you managing them?
So I think trade-offs were inevitable, whether it's in Rwanda or any part of the world, because to deal with the pandemic, you had to go sometimes to lockdowns. You had to limit economic activity that brought a lot of people together in crowds so that the spread could be controlled. So you had to make those trade-offs in order to deal with the pandemic first. But the long-term benefits of doing that were very clear for us as a country. And so we invested not just in the governance structures I talked about, but also in really making sure that we have all that we needed to be safe, including manufacturing some of the equipment that we need. Many of our textile companies changed their business models to start making masks. We have over 90 companies that are making masks today. We have a few that are making the PPEs, the coveralls that are used for safety by medical personnel. We also have a company that is making face shields. So we had to work with our companies to really start making some of the equipment that we needed to manage the pandemic. We also use technology. For example, we use drones to monitor social distancing across the country. And these drones with modern technology are very useful in doing that. We use bracelets in order to monitor those that were in quarantine to be able to guide them to remain in quarantine. So technology was a very big part of how we managed the pandemic. And in fact, the reason that we still have some tourism happening despite the global shutdown is because a lot of tourists that are still coming today, even though compared to what we're having before, the number is very small, but those who are still coming are coming because they trust that we're managing the pandemic well. And that's also why the NBA has made the decision to bring the Africa Basketball League in May 2021 to Rwanda, because they have confidence in how we've managed the pandemic. And we have to continue doing that as the vaccination program also expands in the country, but also globally, and global travel can resume gradually.
That's actually very exciting. I'm a huge sports fan myself. Football, of course, but basketball and other sports are equally exciting. Perhaps a question for Peter, actually. From your very clearly, very fond memories of your time in Rwanda, one's come in, and the question was asking, would you, from your experience, would you recommend travel to Rwanda with children, for example, and what sort of thing would you be looking forward to do with your children?
Well, my children are extremely excited and keen to come to Rwanda because of all the stories and experience I've shared with them. Of course, the clear thing they would like to do and follow is the gorillas. I think they may be slightly too young at this time, but of course they would enjoy Lake Kivu. They would enjoy the canopy walk. They would enjoy the people and the cultures of Kigali as well. So I would definitely take children, and I would like to do so to experience all of the country. But a great question.
Amazing. Another question for you, actually, Peter. So this has clearly been, and I remember from its announcement back in May 2018, this is clearly a different type of sports partnerships, and it has been unique for very many reasons, some of which you touched on. Has the ways in which Arsenal delivered on this partnership helped the club perhaps evolve its thinking in sports sponsorship?
Absolutely. Another great question. It's such a meaningful partnership. It's so purposeful. Yes, we are promoting tourism and changing the perception of Rwanda and making it clear that Rwanda is a tourism destination, but we're also changing mindsets, and we are engaging with a country and in letting that country engage with our fan base. So it's really testament to the power of the purpose marketing that Arsenal can deliver. So really it has opened our eyes and has opened other partners' eyes, prospective and existing, as to what they can do with a partnership. As again, mentioning just the richness of the content, the Amasunzu content was engaging, authentic, compelling. The players enjoyed learning and being part of content like that shone the light on a new culture. Obviously, conservation being a key strand of our strategy and our thinking, but also a global thought phenomenon that everyone wants to be part of. So our players, again, are engaged and interested, as are our fans, in Rwanda, and they're leading light on conservation. And then as well, from the International Women's Day content created with Rwanda as well, shining a light on Rwanda's groundbreaking female empowerment. Again, that's engaging with a culture, with a country, not just the tourism. So it's been a really purposeful and meaningful partnership in that way. And yes, to answer the question, it has provoked better thinking within our team.
Excellent. I think that's a great answer. And it's good to know as well that this partnership, which even for us, I mean, at the beginning we were saying we're not a tangible product, so how are we really going to mechanize it? But it's been great, it's been well received, it's been enriching culturally, and it's nice to hear that from Arsenal's perspective, it has also been a very positive thing to have. So we do have one more question, perhaps a final question, and this is for Claire. So the question is, how open is Rwanda to collaborate to host more world-class sports events in state-of-the-art facilities? It's not within the question, but perhaps there's also a hint suggesting how open is it to also build new facilities?
Because, as I said, sports tourism is such an important priority for us. We are partnering with all potential partnerships that make sense to us and also to the partners that we are working with. And so we're very open to have tournaments come to Rwanda, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's, as I said, golf tournaments, because we've built facilities for that, cricket. And so we're really open to these partnerships. And what it takes to do that is a discussion with the potential partners, assessment of how the partnership structure would look like, and understanding each other's needs. And once we're able to check all of that, then we are able to host more sports events in Rwanda. But apart from sports, we're also generally as a country embracing partnerships that are mutually beneficial to us and in many other ways. And I think the question about children coming to Rwanda, one of the exciting programs we have this year that's coming up is a partnership with Ellen DeGeneres Fund for Conservation. As some of you might know, Ellen DeGeneres is building a campus that is going to be focused on conservation, on learning about gorillas, learning about conservation. And so one of the activities that children can have when they come to Rwanda is really learn about conservation and gorillas at a very young age. And the campus that the Ellen DeGeneres team are putting up, which will be open in September 2021, is one very good offering that kids could, learn from.
Amazing. And this is actually an interesting question, and forgive me if I said that was the last question. And this is for either yourself or Peter. So could you give some background on the win-win concept of the partnership, and what results can you share?
Well, I'll start. The partnership from its inception has created interest and shown the power of the Arsenal brand because of the noise that it created, and the noise has driven to positive results, as we talked about, the increase in tourism, the increase in engagement of our fans with a new partner and a new culture, and that has extended beyond. As Claire's been talking about, other partnerships and other activities that Rwanda has now engaged in has more, I believe, authenticity and credibility because of our partnership. So together we have created a narrative that we are both benefiting from. I talked about how we have realized that we can engage in a different space with other partners, prospective and existing, through the work we've done with Rwanda. And if you think back to the trip of David coming with his family, we've not done something like that before. And it's now a showcase for, I think, other partnerships as to how you can really engage a partnership with the players and then have that player becoming the advocate of the relationship as well. So from that perspective, I think it's win-win from our side, but I'm obviously interested to hear your views, Claire, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in terms of win-win, we look at it, at least from the Rwandan perspective, at 3 levels. The first level, as you said, Peter, is perception. And think about it, just the Visit Rwanda sleeve and how many people watch it when they're watching a game. We're talking about tens of millions of people across the world. When David Louis came to Rwanda, there were over 100 articles that covered his visit to Rwanda. So you can imagine the perception that brings. And of course, as you know, when we launched our partnership with Arsenal, we had more than 1,000 articles written all over the world by key media about this partnership. It was really, for many people, a very interesting and intriguing partnership that they found this to be like. So on the perception level, I think that was really, really clearly a very important win-win. The second level that we look at as a country is what does that produce in terms of results, tourism numbers, which is what we want at the end of the day, the outcome, the impact. And as we saw in 2019, just before the pandemic, I think you shared some of the statistics, Peter. We had a 17% increase in tourism statistics that year and 22% increase just from the UK market. And so that, again, is what we want to see, which is really translating into visitors coming to Rwanda. And when visitors come to Rwanda, they drive economic growth, they drive income levels, they pay taxes. The knock-on effect of the economy is just huge. The third element is that when they come to Rwanda, more tourists actually get to know about more things they can do in Rwanda other than just visiting. We have so many investors who end up investing in the economy of Rwanda and bring their capital here for a longer period of time beyond a week or 2 weeks of tourism. And so also being able to showcase the country to tourists who travel, who have been inspired by the partnership and the perception it's caused, coming to the country and also learning about investment opportunities that some of them actually do invest in the country. And so those three levels for us are the levels that we measure this partnership, and we find it as a win-win in that sense.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you again for sending in your questions. And thank you, Peter and Claire, for your insights. So I think I'm going to take you to the next segment of our event. And this is probably going to take us back to the times when travel was smoother and easier to do. Prior to the pandemic, Arsenal legend and supreme defender Tony Adams visited Rwanda for a short holiday. And he also took part in Kwitizina, which means to give a name in Kinyarwanda. And many of you would probably already know Kwitizina is Rwanda's annual gorilla naming ceremony and a celebration of conservation. He named his gorilla, his baby gorilla, Suru Rwanda, which you'll find out from himself in a few moments what that means. Tony caught up with Prosper Uwingeli, who is the chief park warden at the Volcanoes National Park in Rwanda. And they talked about a bit of his experience visiting the park, but also about the experience in conservation and at the Kwitizina ceremony. As per the previous session, please do send in your questions as the discussions go along, and we'll be using them and going through them during the Q&A towards the later part of this event. So please join me as we join Tony and Prosper in their conversation.
Hi. Hello, Prosper. How you doing? Good to see you, mate. You look very official in your office.
For we are in a transition between the dry season, small dry season to the wet season. So this is a very, very kind of medium, very, very nice weather.
Wonderful. Wonderful for trekking?
Very, very good for trekking. The gorillas are relatively lower, enough food. So unless if you request for it, we will put you in a very, very easy to medium trekking.
And how are the gorillas doing? How's my godson, by the way?
Yeah, the gorillas they are all doing very well. We named the 23 gorillas. Now, actually, we have now 20 which are ready for this year. So it's a very, very good to care for the big gorillas like the one you named, but also the new babies.
Yeah, it's very special. The Kwitizina. I was very honoured to come down there and name my gorilla. Bless him. I couldn't find him. I had to walk for about 7 hours to get to find him. But I was very grateful that I actually tracked him down and saw him. Suri Rwanda, I named him, and that means obviously visit Rwanda. And I was very honoured that to be part of that ceremony. You've done some great work. What is the situation there now?
The mountain gorilla population continue, responding to our conservation efforts. It's actually because of the protection because of the research, the vet services, but also the collaboration, the involvement of communities. That we have really the habitat protected, and we have many communities who are now partners. So the mountain gorilla population continue to increase, despite the impact of COVID-19. It's a different period. But again, we have really built on the positive changes, especially community support. And now we continue to work with the communities, even when tourism is not there. And we are just ready, waiting for the international travel reopening, and then we have many visitors coming to visit them, appreciate them, which also give us opportunity to continue investing in a community support, which is also very, very important to really balance, to continue improving our conservation.
Wonderful. What's the numbers then, Prosper?
For the mountain gorilla total population is 1,063. But it's very, very important to clarify that for the total population, there is split in two different habitats, the Virunga Massif and the Bwindi area. And for the Virunga Massif, the latest number are 604. So actually, from these 604, at least around 2/3 of these are here in Rwanda. And we have 20 families habituated, and it's a big responsibility, but also a big privilege for us to be able to have these mountain gorillas and spend our day-to-day protecting them, and they are responding well.
Fantastic. So, because I hear that you've come off of the critical endangered and now you're just endangered. What's the significance in that, Prosper?
Yeah, it's very, very significant, Tony, because when this population was at the brink of extinction 30 years ago, we did not know what we were doing, what we have been doing over the past 20 years, where it was leading us. It's really a very, very big appreciation that the effort that the government of Rwanda has invested in are actually paying off. And having the mountain gorilla population increasing, and actually the benefit that Rwanda and the communities around here get from the conservation is very, very significant. And it's the same effort that will help us to continue investing, knowing that we are doing the right thing, and everyone is just ready to continue supporting this conservation effort.
I hear that you've got a new project going on, your ambitious project of developing the park.
Yeah, this is a very, very important project, Tony. So we are going to buy land for the park, to expand the park, and we are going to have people settled in a decent housing so that we can have a better interface between the park and the communities. We are all passionate about the gorilla experience, and we want the neighbors of the park to improve the tourism conservation, tourism to continue improving their livelihoods. And there is no way we can do it without really changing the cohabitation between the people and the gorillas. And in the next 5 years, next 10 years, you will actually coming and funding gorillas, as you say, quite easily, but also in an area where they are better protected, and where communities here are happy that their lives and that of the gorillas will be sustainably protected.
Very good. So my understanding is you're expanding the park. You're going to have more and more groups of gorillas, and that. But to do that, you need to use the people, the environment, the specialists alongside that. Yes, to develop it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. That is exactly the case. We are starting with around 4,000 hectares. And we have already targeted that area, and we are going to start actually with the building housing, improve the housing for people, establish socio-economic activities will benefit the people that are going to be relocated. When I see how tourism has transformed the livelihoods here and how communities' attitude has changed, very, very positive, and people here love gorillas, which is going to be kind of a catalyst for the tourism experience, but also for improved livelihood of people.
You're living in harmony with the gorillas, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds a fantastic project. Can't wait to see it and how it develops over the next 5 to 10 years. And I guess,
Tony, so the only way you can expect to come and see gorillas very, very closely is to, get involved. Call people to invest in this project because it's going to be change the landscape, for gorillas, but also for people. And when we are old and when we want to be easy groups, we can actually fund them right there easily. We will not have to climb a mountain to fund them.
We'll have a picnic with them, huh? Come and have a picnic with the gorillas.
Yeah, you can get it,
I'm going to bring my family next time because it's such a wonderful country, and the beautiful surroundings, the kind of lodges that you can stay in now. It's just a wonderful, wonderful country to explore, and obviously the gorillas.
We do get a special request, and when a special request come in, we have what we call the special or private trekking. So the Rwanda Development Board can evaluate. And just first of all, have a mutual understanding that what we are doing is for conservation, is protecting these majestic mountain gorillas for the future generation. And I know you will always support this.
And you told me you had the Kwiti in Zena, which was really important, and I was there last time. You said you had it online this year, yeah?
Yeah, we were last year we were online, and the government, RDB, decided to use the opportunity that we don't have many international visitors to join, and it used the opportunity to actually acknowledge the frontline staff, rangers, truckers, guide. So we were able to give our stories of how it started. So it was a great ceremony, like, always celebrating the birth, but now done and recognizing the efforts by, all these rangers, researchers, vets, which that was really a very, very good opportunity given by the RDB to recognize these people.
And your ambitions, Prosper. When can we come? When can I come and see you again and get my hat back? I want my hat back. When can we see you again? What's your ambitions for the gorillas as well,
Of course, the tourism is open. We have we are applying the COVID-19 measures, very, very strict. So we for visitors to be able to visit the mountain gorillas, we put on surgical masks, and we have increased the distance to see gorillas. And so we do testing regularly for staff, and the visitors need to have tested negative. So these are measures, and we are actually having visitors who are coming. So we are looking forward for you coming back and really seeing the mountain gorillas. And I'm very, very privileged to be in a position where we are still in this very difficult period, but we are still doing tourism, and we are doing everything necessary to protect them.
Thank you. Well, the whole country, to be honest with you. I went across to the other side, Akagera Park, which was fascinating as well, you know, and you get to see, you know, the safari there was exceptional, elephants, you know, giraffes, and the night safari that we did, and the water safari. It was all immense. But you know, the gorillas are a very special part of it, the whole experience. You know, you can't see that pretty much anywhere else in the world at the moment, to get that experience of the big five, as it were. And we've got you've got I've said me, it's my country now. Rwanda's my country. We've got the rhino now as well. It's just a wonderful experience. And you know, I can't be more of a fan. And, you know, when I came there and I saw you guys, and you're so professional at what you do, I love the country. And I can't wait to get and see you again, mate. I can't wait to come and see you.
Oh, thank you very much, Tony, for very, very positive feedback. You know, of course, mountain gorillas, Rwanda need ambassadors like you, like Arsenal. So we are very, very pleased to have you as a lover of the mountain gorillas and for our parks. And another very, with my experience, the very, very important, you know, thing that Rwanda has done and RDB is really to develop other products beyond gorillas, because the mountain gorillas are very, very endangered. So we can only have 96 visitors per day. But also now, you know, having Nyungwe, having Gishwati, having Akagera, visitors, some can come in Volcanoes National Park, others can go in Akagera, others can go in Nyungwe, in Gishwati. So then they see more of Rwanda, and our economy doesn't only depend on the mountain gorillas. And again, mountain gorillas are increasing, so we just keep doing the right thing as we have been doing, and having the right people and the right ambassadors like you. Thank you.
The first time I came, I think you sucked me in, because I think you planted a gorilla about 5 minutes from where we went, and I came to see you guys doing. There you go. I had my photo done and I was gone. And the second time was about 7 hours. To be honest with you, I quite enjoyed the second one rather than the first one, because it all kind of, you know, the people that you trek with, you talk. I love walking anyway. You know, it's just part of the experience, looking at them, looking at where they live, where they move, you know, asking you guys questions, and you're all open and honest, and you talk us through the history of the gorillas, and it's all fascinating stuff. And yeah, like I say, I'm a big fan of Rwanda. Big fan of what you're doing there in conservation. It's so important. And anytime you want anything, mate, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That was great. Thank you very much, Tony and Prosper. As before, please keep submitting in your questions, which we'll go through in the Q&A towards the later part of this event. So for the next segment, I have the honor and privilege to introduce a very special speaker, David Yarrow. David Yarrow took up photography at the early age of 20 and found himself working as a photographer for the London Times on the pitch at the World Cup finals in Mexico City. On that day, David took the famous picture of Diego Maradona holding the World Cup trophy and was subsequently asked to cover the Olympics and numerous other sporting events. Many years later, David has established himself as a fine art photographer by documenting the natural world from new perspectives. He's now recognized as one of the best-selling fine art photographers in the world, with his limited edition works regularly sold at Sotheby's and other auction houses. We are honored to have David join us this afternoon. And just before we hear from him, let me fly you over virtually, of course, to Musanze in Rwanda for a behind-the-scenes look at David in action.
picture's got to elicit some sort of emotion. It's got to be, I think, quite immersive and convey the soul of the animal. So when I think of gorillas, I think of their dominance, their sovereignty. They're the kings up there, we're not the kings. Rwanda is a very special country. It's the Renaissance country of Africa. We go up to the Volcanoes National Park many times to trek to see the gorillas. We come here to work. If I come back from being up the mountain without any decent material, I've had a bad day. Okay, let's hit it. The cloud cover. It's too much blue sky at the moment, and if you get blue sky going through the canopy of a jungle, you get dappled light, which I hate. It ruins any picture. It's a nice thing to be able to stop and relax, because we're wanting the cloud cover to build up, and it's not as if there's nothing to look at, so we can take our time and be tourists a little bit on the way up. There's no rush.
We are close to the gorillas, and once when we meet a team of trackers, we'll be organize our stuff. When they make that sound, it means it's like a warning sound.
Do we know where the other silverback is? Where the main silverback is? Because these are quite small, these ones up here.
Yes.
Their faces are not like so difficult when they're in the trees. There's nothing really at the moment. This is disappointing. There's certainly no picture there. But if it moves, I can just stay here, yeah? Which way do you think it's going to go? You think it's going to go that way?
Yeah. He's planning, but we don't know yet which direction he will be taking.
Close to Ferdinand.
Not running, slowly.
Not running.
I think up here it's probably the hardest assignment I do anywhere in the world, because whilst you can see the gorillas, whilst you can have an encounter with them, turning that into something that is art or something that people want to put on their walls is very demanding. We're rolling the dice a little bit this morning by getting here an hour and a half earlier than normally we would do, and it's a beautiful morning now. We've got quite a steep slope, which is good because that can give maybe the prospect of a little bit more openness and context and narrative. Which one?
One of them is coming from the camp here.
The sun side.
Certainly found it in a good place. What we want is him to turn around now. Can't speak. That's quite intense. Yep. Well done, guys.
How do you go?
Yeah. Hey. Yes.
Yes.
I think the thing about here is the more times you fail, and we fail a lot, the more the probability of one success. So it's putting in the trips, putting in the miles, but it can be very disheartening here. But also it can be very rewarding. So we'll see.
Just wow. I've watched this video before, but each time I can't stop grinning and smiling. Thank you for sharing this behind-the-scenes experience with us, David, and a warm welcome again to this event.
It's good to hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. So if you could just talk to us a bit more about this experience. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. We've seen some of your most iconic images, and we just wondered, how different has it been traveling during the pandemic and doing this sort of work during this very unprecedented time?
Well, contrary to expectations, East Africa had a relatively good COVID, if there could be such an expression as a good COVID. I don't think it's been miserable for everyone, but in terms of the ability of countries in East Africa to manage it, it's certainly been better than expectations. And countries like Kenya and Tanzania, and in this case specifically Rwanda, opened up for tourists sooner than most countries in the world. And we traveled there in August and had special access thanks to the collaboration with people like Prosper, who's a paragon amongst guides, and not just Rwanda, but East Africa generally. Being 55 and weighing more than I should do, going up 11,000 foot, trying to photograph a mountain gorilla with a mask on is not the easiest thing, because the first thing that happens is your breath comes above the mask and then hits your camera viewfinder. So you've got to hold your breath at the very time that you would normally naturally exhale. And it is a tough trip. But the thing that I would say is that we've been up there I think I've been up the mountain 15 times. And over those 15 times, I've taken all sorts of people, whether they be well-known models for fashion shoots, whether they be friends from the UK. And there's no one that comes down the mountain without them saying it's been one of the most memorable days of their lives. For me, I'm a little bit grumpier because I've got a job to do, and I'm looking for a special photograph that requires 3 or 4 factors to coalesce. And it's not going to happen every time. But at a period where our generation and my kids' generation are so content spoiled and have so many visuals to look at, we can sometimes react to something special with sometimes a degree of indifference. It's impossible to do that up in Virunga because the experience is so otherworldly and is raw. What is raw in 2021? I don't know whether seeing a migration crossing in Tanzania with 70 other jeeps and maybe 200 other photographers is necessarily that raw. Rwanda remains a very raw experience. And the extraordinary thing about the country is it's managed to couple that rawness and intimacy with a general experience that probably puts Rwanda as the poster child of African countries. It's as orderly as Arsenal's defense was when Tony was managing it for many years. Nothing much gets through the wrong way in Rwanda in the same way as that Arsenal team. And I think if you look back in 2020, Rwanda probably had the highest GDP of any African country. And a lot of that has to do with how well the project in the north of the country has been managed. I know that when the prices for permits were raised a couple of years back, there were a few calls of the idea that it was profiteering, and I would totally disagree with that. The fact that perhaps the Guerrillas permits are adding $25 million to the economy, and of course, it's not just that, it's the huge number of 5-star hotels and 4-star hotels and lodging and infrastructure that has allowed money to go back into the community, not just into conservation of and the Guerrillas, and the numbers that Prosper talks about speak for themselves. It's about education, it's about facilities, infrastructure. It's an extraordinary success story, Rwanda, and we don't look back at 1994, but if we were allowed 1 second to look at the progress that country has made since 1994 to 2021, in 4 generations' time, the history books will say it's one of the most extraordinary Renaissance stories in any country in the history of the world. And if I was to just continue on that note and just say a few other things,
sure.
When you travel to certain parts of Africa, you feel as if there is a bit of a them and us syndrome between the tourists and the people that are working on the ground, that you go in, you pay your dollars, and then you leave. In Rwanda, there's a friendliness, there's a community spirit, there's a sense of partnership, and the whole experience, not just the 2 or 3 hours of being up the mountain seeing the gorillas, but the whole 48-hour, 72-hour experience is unforgettable. They're the friendliest people I know, in the most orderly country I know. Of course, it's funny that there's a lot of Arsenal tops knocking around in the towns near there.
Yeah.
Quite a few Chelsea tops, quite a few Real Madrid and Barcelona tops, but I haven't seen a Tottenham shirt yet. So obviously, it's not only orderly in terms of how the walls are made and the roads are made, but also what people are allowed to wear, which I think is very smart.
That's amazing. Peter is here smiling at that last comment, especially. And if we do have, of course, neighbors on the call, please do take it in jest. I just thought to ask, I just wanted to ask, what does it mean with all your, with everything that you're doing now, especially at a time like this where a lot more awareness seems to be growing on sustainable tourism, on just being more mindful about what you do when you do it, and now having not been traveling for some time, people are probably going to be more particular in how they go about traveling. What would you say is your message, or what does conservation mean for you?
Well, let's knock one particular misconception on the head. When people a year ago were looking up into the air and saying, isn't it great, there's no airplanes in the sky, that's going to be very good news for the animal kingdom. That's nonsense. The fact that there were no planes in the sky was very bad news for conservation, because it's planes that take tourists to places like Rwanda and Kenya and Tanzania. It's tourists that pay for the guides. It's tourists that pay for the national parks. And 2020 was, in many ways, the sum of all fears for conservation, because not only were national parks not able to finance the rangers that they had done in the past, but conservation also relies on charity. And it's understandable that in 2020, households across the world had maybe more important things to think about than perhaps an elephant or a lion or a gorilla. So it was relegated slightly because we were facing a generational crisis. I think what will happen now, and I'm in America, and America is beginning to open up. I was in 2 airports. I was in Los Angeles airport yesterday and Seattle airport, and America's getting back to not quite normal, but in certain states, very close to normal. And the corollary of 2020 being bad news for conservation is that 2021, 2022, 2023 are going to be great years for conservation because there's pent-up demand to go away to places as spectacular as Rwanda. And money matters. It would be a romanticist, only a romanticist that would say that Rwanda could have achieved the success without US dollars, without foreign travelers coming to places like Virunga. And as the skies open up and people perhaps have a little bit more money in their wallets because they've saved over the last year than they might have done had life continued as normal, I would expect that areas like northern Rwanda and Virunga will be amassed with tourists, people wanting to see this extraordinary experience. The world has fewer and fewer very special places, fewer and fewer places where you feel a real privilege to be there because our generation has been spoilt in terms of ease of access. But Rwanda still has a degree of lore about it. It's not as perhaps accessible as South Africa or Kenya. And I would imagine that the next 2 years are going to be a golden era for visits to Virunga, to see the gorillas, and for the country itself, because everything's set up for the tourists. When you travel from Kigali up to Virunga, and I remember the first time I went there, which was about 10 years ago, I was nervous that I was going into some sort of strange land. This is more safe than going around the M25 in London. If there's a piece of, if there was a volcano that exploded and erupted in Rwanda today, within a week, the stones from that volcano would be part of a wall. It is so orderly, so organized, and beautiful. You know, it's called it's the Switzerland of Africa, and I think it's not as maybe as an obtuse an analogy as people think. It's a country of, what do they say, 5,000 hills. You'll know the expression better than me, yeah, but it is stunningly beautiful. So I would reiterate what I said before, is that it's a holistic experience. It's not just about the gorillas. It's about the people. It's about the community. It's about going to the local bar, having a beer and watching a sports match with some of the friendliest people in the world, or watching a football game with a volcano in the background. I remember the first time I went to the town where people stay before they go up trekking, and there was a little football match going on. And it's the only time I've watched a football match where you got the pitch and you got the goalpost behind, and then there's a volcano behind the goalpost. And I've photographed a lot of football matches in my life, but I don't think in quite a spectacular location as that. So it's got everything. And some of the new lodges that have been built really take accommodation. Well, I've never stayed in better accommodation at 10,000 foot in my life, put it that way. And I'm in awe of the attention to detail that's gone into some of these locations. And yeah, there are a lot of places that I'm kind of lukewarm about, and maybe I've been incredibly spoiled in my career, but it would take an awful lot for me not to persuade someone to invest $1,500 and go up that hill. There are a lot worse ways to spend $1,500.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And it is incredible to hear and to see the process you go through. And we're excited that one of the photos we saw in the behind the scenes is actually being unveiled here at the Emirates. So I am honored to join Peter as we do the honors and we unveil this magnificent print, which will stand in the director's box here at the Emirates Stadium. So, without further ado, I think this is the moment of truth. 3, that's good. Hey. It's all virtual, so we are imagining that there are applause This is such an incredibly striking image. And we understand it's entitled The Pilgrim. Is there anything you would like to say to us, David, about this print as we look at it on the screen?
Well, firstly, I couldn't have done it without Prosper, and it's good to see Prosper looking as smart and as handsome as always. And thank you for looking after us so well. Yeah, it's called The Pilgrim because this was on the Dian Fossey Trail, which is one of the trail that leads tourists to see Dian Fossey's grave, which is in the national park. And it's one of the few areas where you have a little bit of contextuality, where there's room for the camera to breathe and the gorilla to breathe. And it was just luck that while we were on the path, because the path gives you easy access, the gorilla was coming the other way. I always like to have a degree of movement and a degree of dynamism in whatever animal I'm photographing. And I do tend to focus on the silverbacks. My modus operandi, if you like, is I want to glorify animals. So if I'm going to take a photograph of a gorilla, I want to photograph the big guy because they are just so fantastic. And there is, in his eyes, the eyes are the window to the soul. And it's true of a gorilla as well. And in those eyes, there is grace, humility, intelligence, and sovereignty as well. He is very sovereign in that part of the world. He is the person that you look up to. And I'm just in awe, continue to be in awe of the diversity of our planet. And the fact that we share this planet, we don't own it. We share it with extraordinary animals like that is something that we have taken for granted. But it may be in this era of enlightenment, we take less for granted than we once did. And it's a showcase of the wonderment of the world. And I think Dian Fossey would like that picture, and that would make me proud.
David, this is Peter Silverstone from Arsenal. I hope you can hear me.
I can, sir.
Yeah, well, listen, it's two Glaswegians extolling the virtues of an incredible country and incredible experiences in Rwanda. And
can I just say, by the way, just while speaking to a fellow Glaswegian, you paid far too low a price for Kieran Tierney. That was a steal, by the way. That's robbery.
Yes, well, but onto this fine picture. We are just on behalf of Arsenal, immensely proud and extremely happy and excited to have this here with us. It is magnificent, and it's going to be pride of place here at Emirates Stadium. And I look forward to inviting you to see this this fine picture, and you can see Kieran as well one day. But thank you very much. It's exceptional.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's a great honor.
Indeed, it is incredible. So again, just a reminder to our guests, please do continue to submit your questions for the Q&A, which will follow shortly with Tony, Prosper, and David. And David, on behalf of everyone else here, thank you once more for your time, for your reflections, and for sharing what is, I'm sure, for everybody else on the call, a very, very special behind-the-scenes look into what creating this magic is like.
My pleasure.
So we will have a moment of a Q&A with Tony, Prosper, and David Yarrow, and we'll be going through the questions again submitted in the chat box. If you do have one in mind, by all means, do ensure you submit it, and we'll do what we can to squeeze them all in for you. Hello again, Tony and Prosper. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hi, Tony. Hi, David Yarrow.
Hi, Prosper.
Hi, David. Good to see you, Prosper, again.
Glad to see you.
Yeah. So I'll kick this off with a question, and perhaps this is a question for Prosper, if you will. What is the most important thing to tell tourists before they visit gorillas in Volcanoes National Park?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is we tell what is very, very important to tell to tourists this is a lifetime experience. But also we want to remind all visitors that the gorillas that they are going to see. Where on one side they are special. It's a special experience, as David and Tony really highlighted. But also we want to tell that it's a fragile species. We always want to remind visitors that it's through respecting the tourism rules that we protect the mountain gorillas. So knowing that visitors have read stories about gorillas, and when they come, they know exactly what they're expecting. But also it's very, very important to let them know that they are in their natural habitat. We tell them that they are expecting them, and we explain the rules, and it end up being, of course, a lifetime experience, like David just highlighted.
Fantastic. And a question for Tony. Somebody would like to know, what is Akagera National Park like in person? I think we've seen some photos of your time there, we've seen a few clips, but also for those who received the Arsenal matchday programs, they would have seen a picture of you taking a selfie by the lake at Akagera. What can you tell us about Akagera National Park?
Yeah, I don't think it was as good as David's picture, huh?
No.
Maybe?
not quite.
Congratulations, David, as well. It's a magnificent. Next time I'm in the director's box, I'm going to bring me spanner to take it off the wall and try and smuggle it out. It's a great shot. Yeah, much better than my selfies, mate. And
you should see my header.
I concur, David. There's some beautiful words as well, and I completely concur with you. It's a magnificent, fascinating country, and the gorillas are a very special experience from whoever goes and sees them. And like you said, when you come back down the mountain, I don't know a person that's not gone, wow, that's amazing. And the other side on safari was great fun as well, and the conservation work that's going on there with introducing the rhinos. I think one of the rhinos actually come from Hereford Zoo, and they'd shipped it out there because putting it back into its own environment, and some great work. And it's just, I've been on a couple of safaris around the world, and it's wonderful. And the thing what makes it, I think, is the people. I think they are, they're so sweet and lovely and kind and they're very humble. And I just love being a humble kind of guy like myself. I really fitted in. And, there was nothing. I asked for it, let's do that. Yeah, it was great. And in particular, the night safari was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I went with a camera crew as well, and all the guys were like too busy looking at all these eyes in the darkness, going, "Oh, there's eyes!" It was our favourite saying. It was fascinating. But they spent more time looking for the animals than they did taking shots and stuff. But I loved it. Safari is exceptional, one of the best in the world.
Fantastic. I think you've already answered, but there was a second part to the question, which was, how would you compare the safari experience to the gorilla trekking experience?
Yeah, like I said, the gorillas are, it's only, 2 places in the world you can actually go and see them, and to get up that close to them and to be amongst them, living in their own environment and thriving, absolutely thriving. It's a testament to everybody that works there, and there is 96 a day, and I can't smuggle up my kids there, and and kind of, because I can understand, if you grab a kid there and he goes up and he's and they get scared or they start shouting and screaming, that's going to affect their ambience, their natural environment. So I completely understand why they've got the rules, why they've got that in place. And first and foremost, they need to protect those gorillas. So it's a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
conservation.
Once in a lifetime, Tom. Once in a lifetime.
Absolutely.
And I've done it twice.
Oh wow, twice in a lifetime. So I mean, I could just ask one final question, because you're clearly excited, even just remembering the experience. Perhaps a bit tricky, but how does scoring a goal for Arsenal compared to a close encounter with the mountain gorilla?
I was thinking about this weirdly today, and you mentioned Spurs. They actually let. This is how good Rwanda is. They actually let Spurs fans into the country. It's amazing. They let everybody in. And I was going to say, probably Gorillas, going to see them Gorillas, probably tops beating even Spurs. That's how good it is.
Can't argue with that.
But Tom, if I may, just one final thing that David didn't pick up on there, and I've got to say, I think all these, I used to captain the club for a long time, 15 years and stuff, and I think it's got their transformation as a country has got a lot to do with Mr. President. When I saw Paul in 2014 about leadership of the country, it always comes from the top for me. The organisation of the country, it gives them all confidence to go and do their job. He's a remarkable man. And when I gave him that Arsenal shirt, because he got a lot of stick, there was a lot of people that were kind of, well, what are you getting into bed with Arsenal for? And the partnership's been magnificent. Absolutely wonderful partnership and visionary from that man. And I think it all does. I just wanted to say that, he's a remarkable man. I met Nelson Mandela a few years ago, and Paul's right up there. He's so humble, such a wonderful, wonderful man. And no wonder the country is thriving because of it.
Thank you very much.
I would echo that. And I think his approval rating is the highest of any incumbent leader in Africa, and that doesn't surprise me. I think it's entirely deserved, and his friendship with, I think, at least 3 previous US presidents is reflective of that.
Thank you for your words. Thank you. I think, David, as you share those comments, a question here for you, and actually several people asking a similar question. What is particular behind this image, and why this one? But equally, they would like to know, is it at all available for purchase anywhere?
Well, let's do the first part of the question first. I think proximity is important. As Prosper said, you cannot yourself breach those rules in terms of distance. But if the gorilla comes towards you, that you shouldn't be running out of the way. You can just move gently to the way. So there can be, through good fortune, circumstances where you can be close. And if they're coming straight towards you, that adds that sense of immersion. I think what was lucky about that picture is that the gorilla silverback's on a ridge, and behind him, there's quite a long way to the next detail. Quite often when you see the silverbacks, they are in dense vegetation. So you get what I call sense of place. A sense of place is really important to photograph, because you want that picture to say Rwanda rather than necessarily Uganda or the DRC. And I think people that know the area well would say that's got to have been taken in Rwanda. And it's the contextuality afforded by the distance between the silverback and the mountain behind him, and the fact that he was on a ridge. In terms of being able to purchase the picture, we only do 12. And I think a few of them are around the world now, and clearly there's one at the Emirates. So there's a few left. And I think there is detail as to, in association with Arsenal, how people can purchase the image with a share of the proceeds going back to where they should do, which is Rwanda. We do have other images taken in the country, and if people that are on this call are interested, I'm sure we can offer the similar kind of deal whereby our take would go down, and quite rightly, more money would go back to the country from which the content was garnered.
Amazing. And just off the back of that as well, a follow-up question was if there are any plans of unveiling more of these in Rwanda. I think some of our guests being in Rwanda, they would love to also see some of these iconic prints.
Well, in conjunction with the Milton Group, we have had conversations with the good officers of the Rwandan government in London, and we were hoping to do something last year, but because of COVID, that was delayed. But I think there are plans afoot to try and do something this year in Kigali. I'll basically do what I'm told, and if my services are required, they're right there, because we've taken an awful lot out of the country, so it's only right that we put back in.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I think those were our final questions, and not to keep everybody on because we're all in different time zones. Perhaps if either yourself, Tony, or Prosper, you had any final comments that you wish to share. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about this experience?
I can't wait to go again. I think that's the biggest compliment.
To visit your godson.
Exactly. He's doing well, I hear. Prosper's looking after him for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to add, really, I mean, the experience of visiting the mountain gorillas in Rwanda, it's both a tourism experience, discovering the mountain gorillas, but also it's a conservation experience. So it's very, very special. And, you know, we are on it, and so we are waiting for you to come, you know, Tony, you know, David, anytime, and, you know, thank you for, most importantly, for the positive feedback about, you know, our work, our professionalism, and we just have to keep improving. David, you know, telling us that you are very, very optimistic. That in this high season, we should be prepared for welcoming, you know, visitors. That's very, very important word I want to hear from this conversation, and we are looking forward to welcoming visitors in Rwanda. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you all again so much. And without further ado, I think some of our guests are already itching to find out who's going to take away the amazing trip, the amazing prize, kindly provided by Singita. So I think what we're going to do is move on to what will look like to some people as the Spinning the Wheel segment in ITV this morning. So it will be virtual. Every guest who is currently on the call, except of course myself, Peter, and our colleagues, will have the opportunity to win. So I'm going to ask an assistant to kindly spin the wheel, and we will reveal the winner of this magnificent prize. Off we go. And the winner is Paul Argyle. Congratulations, Paul. You must be thrilled. This is going to be an incredible experience for you. And I guess it's not a secret that myself and Peter are very, very, very jealous. We wish we could have been able to, to be part of it. So congratulations, Paul, and we do hope you have a remarkable experience. And now to close and for a special message, I have the honor to invite the High Commissioner for the Republic of Rwanda to the UK, Malta, and the non-resident ambassador to Ireland, Her Excellency Yamina Karitanyi.
Good afternoon, and firstly, congratulations again to Paul for winning the 2 nights at Singita Lodge. That's a very exciting prize, and that's one of the most beautiful places to stay. Thank you to our speakers this afternoon, Clare Akamanzi, CEO of RDB, and Mr. Peter Silverstone, Commercial Director of Arsenal, for your time and the great insights you shared about how this has been more than a partnership and more than a sponsorship. It is indeed a demonstration of teamwork that hinges on shared values and a vision to achieve the extraordinary and positively impact lives. I also wish to thank Tony Adams, or should I say Mr. Arsenal, for your time and your continued friendship with Rwanda. The success story and excellent well-being of our wildlife and the precious mountain gorillas is owed to the custodians of our national parks, the conservationists, rangers, warden, and all the men and women who dedicate their lives to this cause. And so on behalf of my colleagues here, thank you, Prosper, for your leadership and the remarkable work that you and your team continue to do. Each time I look at the image of the Pilgrim and the many other incredible photos of David Yarrow, I am blown away. And I am sure I am not alone when I say this. So David, thank you to you and your entire team and the Milton Group for your partnership in celebrating and championing wildlife conservation and for allowing us to unveil this iconic print at the Emirates Stadium. I cannot wait for the time when we can visit the stadium again to see it in person. Friends, partners, colleagues, we are proud to host the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting in June 2021 against the theme, Delivering a Common Future, Connecting, Innovating, and Transforming. This will see delegates from 54 Commonwealth nations meet in Kigali at this landmark event. We also, starting next month in April 7th to be exact, Rwanda will observe the period of mourning as we commemorate the 27th year since the 94 genocide against the Tutsi. As we invite you to visit Rwanda, we also invite you to journey with us and to learn about Rwanda's history, its context, and how it has achieved what it has thus far. Rwanda today is a testament to the resilience of Rwanda and its people, a visionary leadership and partnerships that deliver, such as this one. Thank you very much for attending this afternoon's event. We look forward to welcoming all of you to our beautiful country as the world reopens. Thank you.